people, welcome back to another ranking. I almost did this in Dutch. Wow, what the hell? I'm Zodiac Garden, and today we are finally ranking the Rocky franchise. Yes, and this will include Creed 1, 2, and 3. So don't worry, these movies are all in. I will cover all of them. I don't know, but it took me a long time to write this script, okay? It took me a long time to to make something of this franchise that I just had difficult with this. So I would just want to say, if you like these kind of rankings, please don't forget to like the video if you haven't already. Subscribe, leave a nice comment. Let me know what your ranking is for the Rocky franchise. My list is not the best, and mine is not the best, and also not the definitive ranking of Rocky. So let's just get started out of the way. Coming in number 9, easily in last place, is Rocky 5. One big misstep from beginning to end. And the frustrating part is that there is plenty of good ideas in here. The idea of moving Rocky into the promoter era, the Don King era of boxing, if you know what I'm saying. That's a good idea, and the idea of making Rocky a mentor, that's a great idea as well. But the execution of these ideas, just no. Look, if you start and think about it, Rocky Balboa, Creed 1 and 2 are all promoter-driven plot lines of what kind of takes place in those movies. That started largely with this movie. The idea of Rocky as a mentor, done excellently in Creed 1 and 2, but this movie it just got something wrong in the calculation or something. From the very first scene and onwards, I mean, I understand that they wanted to bring Rocky back down to, street level. And so he becomes that underdog again, and you take away the glamour, you take away everything from the 80s era of these films. The problem is that this has always been an inspirational series. So when you take away his ability to fight, you take away his money, you make him kind of, a deadbeat dad, you make him a mentor that chooses the wrong person, so he's just in a street fight. And nothing about it is inspirational. Nothing that captures the energy that you want from a Rocky movie. In which case, you're just watching Rocky making bad choices and it doesn't work like it's supposed to work. I think the thing that really kills it is by having Tommy Gunn turn out to be actually the villain. Maybe it could have worked if this was kind of his redemption path, him fighting this upcoming talent and helping him the way Mickey had, but they didn't. So they make him someone that is abandoning his son to train a jerk, and the audience knows he's a jerk, so it just doesn't come together, and then it ends with a big gigantic street fight. Yeah, that's what we want to see in a Rocky movie, right? I think it's more watchable than it's often given credit for. I don't hate it like a lot of other people hate it, but without a question, to me, this is the weakest from the franchise, and I'm pretty sure everyone agrees with that. Coming in number 8 is Rocky 2. I'm sure this is one of the most controversial placements on this list, but I've rewatched this movie like 10 times by now, and I really enjoy it, especially as you get into the training montage, the final fight. They're all classic Rocky. I mean, watching the kids chasing him up the steps, I mean, that's what this franchise is all about. Of course, it's an important and pivotal piece in the journey of Rocky Balboa himself. This is where he becomes a champion, et versa. So there's a lot of things this movie that I love. But the first 2 acts of it just feel like they are struggling to figure out what to do and how to continue the story, and what's the emotional journey and what is the motivation. And I don't think that this movie delivers to be all that compelling. I mean, especially on a rewatch. It's a little bit of a struggle to get through the first 2 acts, if you know what I'm saying. And to get to the great stuff in the last third of the film. So in order to give him motivation, it has to dumb Rocky so much to where he's doing these ads, and it's like he doesn't know how to read and everything. And everyone is like mocking him, making fun of him. I mean, I understand it's not like he was portrayed as being extremely intelligent in the first film, and the idea that he's not the most educated person, that's established very early on. But this movie just makes him so dumb that I just feel, and I mean, I really just feel like we're humiliating him for the purpose of being able to motivate him to fight. And so then when you do get the final victory at the end, it doesn't feel as earned in this movie as it would have been in the previous film, because he is fighting for a lesser motivation. What is driving him isn't as compelling, so a movie that has a great iconic Rocky elements, but you know, let's give it. But watching Rocky will be a fool and being unable to read for an hour of the film, yeah, not my favorite, guys, I'm sorry. Coming in number 7, and I'm sure there's gonna be another highly controversial placement on this list, but it's Rocky 3. Look, I grew up with the first 3 movies especially, and I really enjoy them, but when I'm in the mood for 80s Rocky, I'm going to Rocky 4 earlier than this film. But this was Rocky's introduction to the 80s, from the soundtrack, to Hulk Hogan with a wrestling match, to Mr. T even showing up apparently. Stylistically, it changed, the pacing changed, and even Stallone kind of changed in the way that he portrayed the character. He's somehow more intelligent in this film. All of a sudden he's doing these commercials and is able to read. And yeah, I know, right? You see a dramatic shift in the franchise as well as the character, and I've just never connected with this one as much as a lot of you guys have. It's not that I would point out and be like, alright, here's the big flaw with this movie, like with Rocky 2 and Rocky 5, hold on. There are specific things that I'm not crazy about. I always feel like I should like this one a bit more than I actually do. The thing that really works here is the bromance between Rocky and Apollo. Such a pivotal piece of the franchise, and the transition happens in this film. In the previous 2, Rocky slowly earned Apollo's respect. Here the friendship is started and established, and that lays the foundation for pretty much everything else that happens in this series of films, I'm sorry. But you know, there is plenty of iconic, memorable things in here. Of course, the wrestling with Hulk Hogan, introducing us to Mr. T and all of his iconic lines that he delivered. I just feel like the tone doesn't quite work, because it tries to have some of that melodrama of the first 2 movies combined with the cheesy 80s stuff, and it didn't work as well here as it did in Rocky 4. So at number 6 we have Creed 3, and to be perfectly clear, I really enjoyed this movie. And in the case of this movie even, Michael B. Jordan brought in some outside influences that make this movie stand out in the franchise, and I still haven't decided what I feel about some of those things. But on the positive on this movie, Jonathan Majors makes for one of the absolute best antagonists in this entire franchise. It's a very different type of character that ties to Adonis' past, his motivation is personal, and he's more convincing than any of the other opponents he has been in this entire franchise. He is physically dangerous, he's emotionally manipulative, and it just makes for an interesting character. So we're at the 9th movie, and there are still some fresh and new things brought to the table. What brings this one down, at least at the time of this ranking, it might move up on rewatch and time, but it is that I just felt like they cheated certain plot points, and then it feels like 10 to 15 minutes were cut between the 2nd and 3rd act. And what I mean with that is, without trying to go to over many spoilers in case of someone still hasn't watched this film yet, that some of the stuff that leads to the way that Damien gets the fight opportunity and the reveals that take place about that, as soon as you stop and think about it, what would actually take place, if that really happened, it wouldn't lead to a big boxing match. It would lead to police getting involved. It would play out very differently than what the movie does with it. Then once you kind of get into that point of time where his true motivations are revealed, it kind of feels like he is kind of disappearing, and then it shows him in this, it kind of showed him his whole different lifestyle with big parties and riches. It kind of feels like they cut a bunch of stuff. Finally, the thing we have to talk about with this movie is the absence of Stallone. To be fair, I didn't mind that as much at all. The story that they told, where Adonis is at, how much time has passed since Creed 2, and where it left Stallone, left Rocky, it makes sense that he wouldn't, be in this story. I wish they gave us a few more lines of dialogue about giving us an update on what Rocky is about to be doing, but I don't think he fit into this story because it is about Adonis' past, and this franchise has always been about forging your own destiny and doing a movie in this franchise that fully passes the baton to Michael B. Jordan as a director and Adonis Creed as the star. I think I'm very okay with that. Breaking into the top 5, we have Rocky 6, and I love this movie. I just felt like this movie captures the heart and vibe of the original Rocky way better than any other movie in this goddamn franchise. Now, aesthetically speaking, Rocky 2 is more similar to the original Rocky, but that is like superficially speaking. No biggie. I feel like this is the one that captures that underdog story, and a lot of that goes back to what was going on with Stallone. With the creation of each of these two films, here Stallone was in the middle of like a 10-year hiatus in his career, where he had been on top of the world for like 20 years, and then he was really struggling. In that window of time, fights and fights and fights, he was having to get this sixth movie of Rocky off the ground. And he kind of writes that story into this story, and the same journey that he was going through in real life, he brought it over into, this movie, Rocky 6. This idea that there is always a little bit more left in the tank. That is the journey that Rocky is on in this movie. During this Rocky thinks that there is just a little bit more left in the tank. It just captures the characters so well at a different phase of life. Adrian is not in the movie, but in another sense, Adrian has more to do in Rocky 6 than she did in the last 3 Rocky movies. Because she just so saturates everything of what is going on with Rocky, with his phase of his life, and what he's processing. Hell, even what Paulie's processing in this film. I mean, come on. I even love the portrayal of the characters, where they introduce little Marie as a grown-up, but it's not really a romance, before people's gonna start in the comments. It's just he wants a friend and he wants to be a mentor. And it continues to portray and go back to a version of Rocky that we haven't seen much of since the original film. He is just kind of rough around the edges of a fighter, but also just like a really old-fashioned nice guy. Then there's great stuff between Rocky and his son that just kind of flashes their relationship, and also outweighing that relationship in ways that the series has never been able to do before, and only is touched on in a sprinkle in Creed 2. And then of course I think they even came up with a good explanation for how he has one more fight, the way that he is treated, what they do with the Tarver character, the journey throughout the film. He's kind of this arrogant guy. He's kind of guy who finds the idea of doing this fight, he doesn't want to. He doesn't think he should fight this retired boxer. In doing so, you continue to make Rocky the underdog. And you give this character that doesn't have a ton of meat on the bones there, but just enough of an arc, where he learns to respect Rocky, and even in the fight, George Foreman was still boxing until he was like 50 years old. Rocky is only supposed to be a few years older than that in this film, and they come up with just a few explanations as why he will be able to withstand a fight like this. So I thought they pulled it off very well. They did an excellent job of bringing the franchise back in delivering, and one of the final fights of Rocky, this was actually a good fight to end it with. Coming in number 4, we have Creed 2. And as I said before, I am not sure with time which of these 2 Creed movies will come on top, Creed 2 or Creed 3. As on this moment, because I like the Drago characters so much, and because I had a couple of things that rubbed me wrong way with Creed 3, Creed 2 is coming on top, and what I loved about this movie is that it found a way to take Rocky 4, which is inheritably kind of a cheesy movie, like this 80s movie, and elevates it. It uses that as the foundation to tell this tragic story, not just about the life of Adonis Creed and the death of Apollo Creed, but the tragic story of the Dragos as well. That you really play out the way that Ivan Drago was treated, and how he was used as a tool. He turns into this very tragic character whose life is built around trying to earn the respect of people that only value what he can deliver for them. And so, when he's not perfection, when his son isn't perfection, they reject them. There is something very painful and tragic about that, and they elevated this cartoon villain from Rocky 4 and made him a real character, with a son that he cares about. And with the Creed franchise, with Adonis' backstory, this was like the perfect direction to go. To tie back to the old franchise, to tell a story with personal connection to a character that was of before. As someone who has seen Rocky 4 roughly 2000 times, it just is a very cool continuation of that story. On the level of Adonis, are you able to kind of dive into his life a little bit more? With marriage, kids coming up, he is getting older, he's trying to process the things that he's going through. You know, we get a little bit of a journey for Rocky. Not quite as much we got in the first Creed movie, but there is just enough there about him that is when you really start to see what the movie is about. Fathers and sons, fathers and daughters, and these legacies, how we connect with them. It is so that Adonis now has a child and he is trying to figure out, like, what does this child have to do to earn my respect, to be loved by me, and all that, etc. Well, I love this child no matter what, and that is kind of the lesson Rocky is teaching Adonis. But that is also the lesson that Ivan Drago is learning about his son, and you see that ultimately in the final fight. That he cares more about his son than he cares about the respect of these people, and you give the Dragos an arc through this team that is kind of running throughout the entire film. I wish that was executed a little bit differently. I don't love the execution of that idea in the final fight, but yeah, I love the idea of it ties to what the whole movie was really about, so I just thought this was a great continuation of Creed, as well as for Rocky. Coming in number 3 is Creed 1. Started the top 3, we have this Creed 1 movie, and I still remember when I first heard they were making this movie. I was just so worried that this was a cheap cash in, and then I went go to see the movie in the theater, and it really was the perfect continuation of this franchise. A franchise that I have rewatched so many times, and I love it when we are able to see characters throughout the span of their life. So this movie almost becomes like the fantastic book, and for that journey with Rocky, you get Stallone's best performance as Rocky in this film. He was nominated for Academy Awards, Golden Globes, and all of that stuff for this performance. You see Rocky at a point in his life where he doesn't have anything left that he values, really. His wife and best friend are gone, his son has moved elsewhere, and he's kind of waiting to die. And the best arcs, the best stories are when you have someone that needs this exact encounter to happen. This exact series of events to happen, to save them, to change them. So Adonis entering Rocky's life at this moment is what inspires Rocky to even go to the doctor and seek treatment. And inspires him to keep fighting. I just love that you know that you get to continue to see that story of Rocky. That it's still so good and so impactful on ways that you wouldn't expect going into this film. Also just Adonis himself. They find a way to give us this new lead character who is the underdog, is trying to earn the respect of others the same way that Rocky was trying to do in the original film. But Adonis is nothing like Rocky. Adonis, his background is nothing like Rocky's. His difficulty in accepting who he is a totally different journey. And therefore, it's able to hit all those same beats, but in a fresh way. It doesn't feel like we're just rehashing the original Rocky film. You have someone who has a great name, but he struggles to embrace it. That has all of this talent, but has a number of people holding him back from trying to fully go down that path. And so it's just able to do everything that I want from a Rocky film or a Creed movie. It delivers on all the notes, all the emotion, and Ryan Coogler and Michael B. Jordan do an excellent job of continuing the legacy of Rocky Balboa. This is a perfect continuation of this series so far, and I will die on that hill. In second place we have Rocky 4. This really is an 80s product. it is a thing and of itself. The movie contains like 5 different music montages. It is a very heavy handled Cold War metaphor. It is very cheesy at times with robots and dance numbers, while at the same time being very heavy with the melodrama. And someone is dying in the ring and Rocky is out for revenge, giving speeches at the end of the film. It is an 80s project that only could have been delivered by the 80s. This is also the Rocky movie that I probably rewatched the most. It is the one that just kind of taps into that raw, superficial, inspirational, throughout the 12-minute training montages, the 15-minute final fight, everything is cranked up to 11, and that's what I love so much about this film, and that's what makes this movie kind of an awesome oddity in the world of cinema. It's all these different things, and at the same time, because of that simplicity of what it's doing, it's just so funny to watch. By the end of the day, this is the one that I watch by far the most, and I love it. And coming at the number 1 spot, no shocker, no surprise, is Rocky 1. Well, this is the movie that laid the foundation for this entire series. Hell, it essentially established the template for all sports movies that have come since. But it's an excellent film, so why not? Because it does what all great sports movies do, which is the sports themselves are really a visual metaphor for what is going on the inside of the characters, where it is really about that character arc and the journey that they are on. And in this case, in this movie, well, yeah, it's about Rocky. This guy that is not really smart, he's actually fairly kind-hearted, but he's never really taken a shot on himself. No one has really given him the opportunity, so he has found himself as a leg breaker or a lone shark. Instead of ever pursuing anything, he's giving this opportunity at last, and all he really cares about is answering that one question, and that is, do I have what it takes? And therefore the fight becomes the actual visualization of that internal struggle, that he is working through all of this. It's actually all of a romance. I mean, it's a story kind of about growing up, about finding respect, this desire we all have to be respected by the people that we respect ourselves, and that makes all of that work. It's not about winning or losing, it's about the fact that he gave it his all. He took his shot and he went for it, and he showed himself that he can go the distance. I even love the way that Apollo is presented in this film. He is the antagonist, but he is not really an antagonist, if you know what I'm saying. He is the one that gave Rocky his shot and his chance, and until they are in the fight, his trainer Duke has been warning him all along, like, dude, watch out for him, watch out for this guy. I think this guy got more in there than we are expecting and we are actually realizing. As soon as Rocky knocks Creed down, Creed realizes he is a threat and earns Creed's respect. And his respect is shown on display in the fact that suddenly he starts treating him a lot more seriously. He starts trash talking him. It feels like a real person having realizations on the moment. So a movie that does everything right and stuff. I mean, the music is iconic, the train montages are iconic, the characters are iconic, the final fight is iconic, everything about it is iconic and legendary, so it's an easy number 1 for me. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you liked this ranking. Please don't, like I said before, don't forget to give the like, subscribe, give me your ranking in the comments. Like I said, my ranking isn't the definitive ranking of this franchise. Let me know what you think of this franchise. Like, subscribe, comment, and yeah, we see you guys next week. Tot volgende week!